Disclaimer. The following stories have been provided to illustrate mental health service complaint issues from the point of view of consumers. Some details may have been omitted to protect the privacy of consumers, carers and service providers involved. One of our roles is to share the lessons learned from our work to drive improvement. In sharing these stories, we aim to maximise the mental health system's ability to learn from the experience of health and disability consumers and providers. While every effort is made to ensure the accuracy and completeness of these stories, they cannot fully detail all of the information about a case. The Health and Disability Services Complaints Office, HADSCO, offers an impartial resolution service for complaints relating to health and disability services in Western Australia and the Indian Ocean Territories. This service is free and available to all users and providers of health and disability services. Acting independently and in confidence, the office works with both consumers and providers to review and report on the causes of complaints, suggest service improvements, and educate service providers on effective complaint resolution. Underpinning all the work of the office is the vision of empowering users and providers to collaboratively improve health and disability services. In November 2013, the office hosted a forum for mental health consumers, carers and family members to better understand the challenges and lived experiences in making complaints about mental health services. These stories have helped to shape the report and the recommendations contained within it, with the aim of collaboratively working with key agencies in the sector to improve the handling of mental health service complaints. These are the voices of consumers. Case Study P.
My son had a mental illness and I was his carer. I desperately wanted to help, but he ended up in hospital. Hospital wasn't what either of us thought it would be. We were both left confused, upset and feeling totally powerless about his experience of involuntary detention. As his carer, I took responsibility for making a complaint. I spent a lot of time, effort and thought on my complaint letter, hoping it would highlight the difficulties we'd experienced and direct some attention to the areas that we thought needed improvement. I wrote a long letter outlining my son's experience and asking some specific questions about what we saw as failures in the system. In response, I received an equally long letter, basically recounting my version of events, and in the final page, referring me elsewhere with my grievance, totally ignoring the questions I'd asked. Confronted with this response, I felt totally helpless.
Clear communication is critical in the effective resolution of complaints. HADSCO has recommended that mental health service providers and bodies dealing with complaints review external publications and correspondence and ensure that they are clear, accessible, easily understood and devoid of jargon, as outlined in the Australian Standards for Customer Satisfaction, Guidelines for Complaint Handling.
A human response in clear, simple words. That's all I wanted.
Case Study S.
I raised a complaint with my mental health service provider. Other consumers had approached me about their concerns to changes in the service, but no one was prepared to speak up. What's the point, one friend asked. It's not like they're going to listen. I wasn't prepared to let changes happen in the service, making me and my friends miserable without speaking up about it. I mean, it's not like we'd been consulted about the changes. I made a complaint to management, and all I received in response was some vague answer which didn't even actually address the complaint. Oh, they were very clear on another point though, that no further dialogue would be entered into on the issue. I felt fobbed off and dismissed, disempowered by the lack of consultation and their refusal to even discuss the changes to my service. Just so disrespectful.
Respect is a fundamental aspect of appropriate complaints handling. HADSCO recommends that mental health service providers and bodies dealing with complaints ensure training is made available to staff regarding the Charter of Mental Health Care Principles, Principle 1, and the United Nations Principles for the Protection of Persons with Mental Illness and for the Improvement of Mental Health Care, Principle 2, both of which enshrine the rights of persons diagnosed with a mental illness to be treated with compassion, dignity and respect.
I'm just grateful that I do have a voice and that I can raise it to help those other consumers who can't or won't make a complaint.
Case Study M.
I've been in and out of hospital for the last 6 years now as a voluntary patient. On my last admission to the hospital, I saw a new psychiatrist. I didn't see her for long, but in the space of that short consultation, she changed my diagnosis and my medication. I told her that I didn't like the new medication, that it was making me violently ill. I raised my issue, but I felt dismissed, my views disregarded. I was worried about being made involuntary if I didn't comply with the psychiatrist's new medication plan. And besides, I was so focused on my recovery and dealing with the side effects of that horrible medication, I didn't have the energy to pursue a complaint. I haven't raised a complaint, even since my last discharge, because I'm still going to the same service. Even though I'm treated under a different psychiatrist now, I worried that if I raise my experience with them, that they'll change my current treatment or say that I'm unwell and make me involuntary. And worse still, is the worry that I won't be believed in raising my complaint because I was unwell at the time.
A collaborative approach of key agencies in the sector will ensure that consumers are supported in accessing impartial and independent complaint resolution services. HADSCO recommends key agencies, including mental health advocates, collaborate in defining each body's roles and responsibilities and aim to develop memoranda of understanding to support a cohesive mental health service complaint system. In particular, cooperation between mental health advocates and HADSCO will need to be explored to ensure timely and supported access for consumers in raising complaints.
I don't want someone to have the same experience as I had, but I also don't want to have any problems with my mental health service by making a formal complaint.